Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about integers and absolute value. Both of these concepts are probably review, but we need to make sure that we have the correct definitions and understanding of both of these concepts. So we're going to first look at integers. So when we talk about integers, we often talk about opposites. So opposites are numbers that are the same distance from 0 but on different sides of 0. So think of a number line with 0 in the middle. On the left side you have negative numbers, and the right side you have positive numbers. For every positive number there is an opposite that is the same distance away from 0 but that is negative. So let's take a look at integers. The whole numbers and their opposites are integers. So an example of that would be like 4 and negative 4. So 4 is our positive whole number. Its opposite would be negative 4. Those are both examples of integers. They are often shown on a number line. Positive numbers increase as they move away from 0. So if you're moving to the right, that's an example of it increasing. Think of that number line. Negative numbers decrease as they move further away from 0. An important thing to note is that 0 is neither positive nor negative. So think of 0 as more of a neutral number. So down here we're going to look at some integers and compare them using less than, greater than, or equal to. So the first one, we have negative 5 and negative 3. The larger of those two is negative 3. So we would say that negative 5 is less than negative 3. Number 2, we have negative 100 and negative 3. So if you're thinking about that number line, negative 100 is going to be further to the left than negative 3. So we would say that negative 3 is larger than negative 100, or that negative 100 is less than negative 3. Next we have 0 and negative 12. So negative 12 is further to the left than 0. So we would say that 0 is greater than negative 12. Alright, the next one we have 8 and negative 6. So positive 8 is greater than negative 6. Alright, and number 5, we are putting them in order from least to greatest. So once again, think of that number line. The number that is furthest to the left would be negative 14. Then we would have negative 8. Then we would have negative 5. Then we would have negative 4. Then we would have negative 2. We would have 0. And then we would just, now that we are at 0, we're going to do positive. So it would be 1, then 3, then 5, then 8, then 12. Okay. So now we transition to absolute value. Okay. So when we talk about absolute value, we are talking about the distance that a number is away from 0. So absolute value is not going to be negative because we're talking about a distance. So for the next part it says absolute value is always positive. It can never be negative. Just like when we talk about distances, we don't say negative distances. We're just talking about a direction, and so it's not going to be negative ever. The symbol for absolute value is you have two little bars and then a number in between, so I'm just going to put X. So that would say the absolute value of x, where we'll be using specific numbers. So let's look at some examples. We have the absolute value of -4. So that's just saying the distance from -4 to 0 is 4 units. The next one, we have the absolute value of +4. Once again, 4 is 4 units away from 0. For this one, we have the absolute value of -3 plus the absolute value of +2. So the absolute value of -3 is just +3. Okay, the absolute value of 2 is +2. Oh no. Okay, sorry, my pen is not working. All right, so 3 plus 2 then is 5. All right. This next one, so we're saying the absolute value of +4, but then we have this negative that is outside. So our answer, although the absolute value of +4 is +4, since we have that negative outside, we're applying that negative after we do the absolute value. So your final answer here would be -4. Okay, so when we are talking about absolute value, we can use words to kind of describe that relationship and describe what's going on. So right here we have -5. It says it means 5 units to the left of 0. Once again, when we are talking about absolute value and integers for that matter, we're talking about the direction on a number line. So down here, we have a negative outside of the parentheses of -4. This is going to translate as the opposite of -4. So the opposite of -4 would be +4. Down here, we have a negative outside, the absolute value of -8. So that would mean that that is the opposite of the absolute value of -8, which is -8. So once again, the absolute value of -8 is +8, but since we have that negative outside, it's saying the opposite of +8 is -8. That's where we're getting our answer. All right, so make sure that you have an understanding of integers and absolute value and their definitions, and make sure that you are answering the questions as you are completing this video in Edpuzzle. If you have any questions, make sure you note them at the end of this video, and we will see you all tomorrow. Thanks.